You see this right here? This $150 DIY flash photography cart just killed the Lightstand. And I'm gonna show you how you can build one for yourself.
Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build your online presence.
Now, ever since I started shooting off-camera flash, I always thought to myself, there had to be a better way of doing this, right? Because lugging around these heavy lights, camera bags, light stands, and sometimes a sandbag, as much as I love lighting, I would just opt to shoot natural light because it was such a pain in the ass to lug all of this around. The hassle, because I don't have assistants or people around me. Let's be real, a lot of us are just solo creators, right? We do things on our own. We don't have a crew, we don't have help. So it's a hassle. And plus, a lot of people out there, I'm sure, don't even get started with off-camera flash because of the burden that it is when you're outdoors with all this stuff, you know? Now, photographers have been trying to replace the light stand for a long time now. And it's something, and it's an idea that I've actually toyed with myself for a pretty long time. Now, look, some photographers will stick a pole into their backpack, right? And they'll have a, you know, they're looking like a straight up nerdy RoboCop with this whole thing. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, I actually tried this myself, but I just didn't have the balls to go outdoors with this contraption and softbox over my head. I just couldn't do it. Now, the idea that really, like, I saw some potential in was the mobile caddy cart, right? This is like the little golf caddy cart converted to a little mobile light studio. The problem with the caddy cart, and I've had this caddy cart sitting here for years. I've tried over time to make it work, but I just couldn't get it to work the way I wanted to. And there were no tutorials online. There were just pictures of people's custom builds.
So the idea here was to mount either a boom pole or some kind of painter's pole to this chassis, right? Where it didn't compromise the portability of this cart so that I could fold it and put it into my trunk. I bought every kind of clamp possible and I just couldn't find a nice solution.
Then I saw a photographer on Instagram recently. He posted a video showing a shopping cart with a painter's pole attached to it. And I'm like, you know what? That has some potential. The little wheels don't look good for the city, but that little build had some potential. So I reached out to him and I pretty much built a very similar build kit to that. And I'm gonna show you exactly what you need because so far, this has been working really well. Now let me show you what you need. This cart is a Milwaukee shopping cart. I got it from Home Depot. I got it for about $90, right? This is a painter's pole. I got the painter's pole actually on Amazon. You could get them at Home Depot. I made the mistake of I bought the wrong painter's pole and I'll tell you why later. But I got a painter's pole that closes or, you know, collapses down to a reasonable size. So I wanted it to be as short as possible when it's fully collapsed because at the end of the day, I'm throwing it in my car, you know, assembled like this. And I also made sure that I got the one with the rubber grips because I'm using the grips as a friction point to hold it together. I got 3 metal clamps for, you know, holding the painter's pole. Then I got a Westcott painter's pole adapter. This is about 20 bucks. And it also has a slot here for an umbrella if you need. Now, the position of the painter's pole. Now, why did I mount it on the outside versus on the inside? And I toyed with it a little bit. So the reason why I mounted this on the outside was because when I fold this cart, it doesn't interfere with the portability. If I were to put it on the inside, it would, you know, it would interfere with how much this would collapse. And the nice thing is when you're on location, it leaves all of that space empty so that you can put your camera bag, you can put the model's stuff, right? Whoever's on set with you, they could put their stuff in here. And now for probably the biggest benefit of using a cart like this is gonna be the resistance to the wind, right? The weight of the cart compounded with the 15-pound sandbag that I put in here and whatever other gear I have on here.
Now the cart itself weighs almost 30 pounds. And by adding my 15-pound sandbag and maybe a camera backpack that probably weighs around 10 pounds, that's over 50 pounds of weight, making sure that this light doesn't get sent into orbit. My last shoot with the 200mm, it was super windy out and the cart itself wasn't budging. The modifier was all over the place, but that was because of the painter's pole.
I chose the wrong painter's pole. I like this one because this one has a really convenient lever here. So I could just push and I can adjust it to whatever height. I like that. But the problem is that this one doesn't have any rubber grips. And so even with the 2 metal clamps and this connected to here, this thing was rocking back and forth.
And not only that, the shortest it collapsed was 4 feet. And then when you add the painter's pole adapter to it, it's just a little too long for daily transport. Pause. So I purchased one that collapsed down to 3 feet and one that had rubber grips on it, right? This gave me multiple friction points so that the pole wouldn't spin when I was shooting on windy days.
I cut part of this top handle and I just wrapped the pole down here and I put another metal clamp on there. Now this thing does not move at all. With 2, it did have the tiniest bit of give, but now with 3, I mean, rock solid. It's rock solid, baby. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, if you've been watching this and thinking to yourself that this might be the perfect on-location photography cart, well, hold your horses, all right? Because there are some potential deal breakers that you need to know about. But first, I need to send a shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that, you guessed it, Squarespace. Now with Squarespace, they absolutely make creating any kind of website, online store, or even a personal blog easy for anyone to set up and manage on their own. You will never come across a service that is this seamless to use. I personally use Squarespace for everything. It's where my portfolio lives. It's where I can show off my best work without it getting compressed to hell on Instagram. It's where I manage my online store and even where I sell my off-camera flash mini course that I created all on my own, all right, leveraging their new AI design tools and features. Now, if I had any questions, they have 24/7 customer support. Truly, there is no more waiting at this point. Pull the trigger right now, and if you love it, use a code Manny and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Now, one of the biggest drawbacks of using a shopping cart like this is how it breaks down. So it does not break down super portable. See, I upgraded my car recently, and I say recently, but it was last year. I had a 2019 Golf R. I had it slammed on bags, right? I had a big compressor in the back here. This would never work with that car because it was just way too small. There was no space. I have a Model Y Performance now. And even with this larger trunk, this does not fit in the trunk without me having to put a seat down. So when I first bought the cart and I didn't have this painter's pole attached to it, it still didn't fit flush. The wheels were still blocking the trunk from closing. So with the painter's pole now, I have even less room. So regardless, the seats have to come down. And this is one of my gripes with this setup. Something that I would love to find something else in the future where it could fit in a normal trunk. It would collapse down to that size, you know? So with even my Model Y, I have to put one seat back or one seat down and pack it up like that, or I could just lay it flat with all the seats down. If you're curious as to how it sits in the back seat, well, with everything, well, this painter's pole attachment will block the door from closing. But taking this off is just one screw, it comes off and the door will close and it sits nice. That's why I'm saying, like, make sure you get a painter's pole that collapses down to, let's say, like 3 feet. It's gonna give you a little bit more, it's just gonna be more convenient when transporting this thing. One of the other flaws of using a cart like this is that it doesn't have any kind of brake system. So, and putting a modifier on here, it's definitely good. If the wind catches it, it will move it around. So I've been super ghetto with it. I've been using some clamps, some studio clamps, and I just kind of pinch the wheel here. And that prevents it from moving for the most part, but I'm sure there's a better solution. I'm not a handyman, but I'm sure there's a better way to get this cart from not moving around. So for the past like 5-6 years, I mean, I've been using this wagon, this Amazon wagon, to transport all my gear. And I'm sure a lot of you guys own something like this, but I do prefer the form factor of the shopping cart. I like how everything is upright. With this, if let's say I put a light stand with a modifier in here, it's gonna be sticking out the side. You know, this, I like how everything is upright. Look at all the space. I mean, I have my camera backpack, my lights, my light stand, modifier. If there's one thing that I could change, I wish that I could put these wheels onto this cart.
Now, after my first shoot using this cart, when I was on my way back to the car, those front wheels hit a small curb and I went flying over the cart. And it all happened as a turbo with at least 100 people were passing near me. I didn't make eye contact with nobody. I got up. Look, listen, those front wheels do not mix with uneven pavement. All right, fair warning to you so you don't end up looking like me out there. All right, look, I know that this video is probably longer than it should have been, but I just want to make sure that you know all the pros and cons of using this specific cart. Now, it certainly isn't perfect, but it addresses one of the biggest pain points that I have and a lot of people have when shooting off-camera flash. So massive shout out to Arveer Visual Media for coming up with this really dope cart idea. As always, if you want to learn how I approach off-camera flash myself, how I approach my camera settings when blending ambient light and flash, how to tackle that harsh afternoon sun, how to find that perfect light placement, and even how I compose my portraits, even how I edit them and retouch. All right, check out my off-camera flash mini course. All right, it's gonna be the best $100 you're gonna spend. All right, you hear me? Appreciate your support. I'll talk to you soon.